The 2026 Formula 1 season will have very few, if any, seats for rookie drivers. But one young man still has a shot. He just needs to keep it together. Hello and welcome, fellow motorsports fans. The past F2 weekend has shown us the best and worst of Arvid Lindblad, and we'll talk all about it, together with Campos' team title in F3, the weird fan reaction to the McLaren drama, and many more bits and pieces from all over the feeder series world. We'll begin with the final Formula 3 round of the season, where Campos managed to pull it off, securing the team's title ahead of Trident thanks to the remarkable seasons from veterans Mari Boya and Nikola Tsolov, as well as yet another feel-good win for Taz Intrapuvizak. I was excited for Intrapuvizak before the season, as some of you may recall, but had anyone told me he'd leave with the second most wins out of anybody, I would certainly not have believed you. On the flip side, I still feel like Tsolov must be disappointed despite the P2. With Prema crumbling, this was really supposed to be his championship on paper, and getting dominated by a rookie is not a great look for potential F1 teams. But we will talk more about how well drivers have met expectations in a dedicated F3 review video in a week or two. Of course, we have to include Tim Tramnitz absolutely getting robbed of a chance to fight for P2 in the championship himself, even if it probably wasn't meant to be anyway. He put in all the work he had to win that sprint, only for some stupid pre-race infringement to get him penalised well down the order. At least, I feel pretty accurate with my assessment of Tramnitz. I don't know if he has the raw talent to be an F1 on merit, probably not, but he might have well been the most mature driver in the series this year. Aside from that one brain-dead moment in Barcelona, he has really maximised whatever MP provided on a consistent basis, inserting himself in a title battle that I don't think the car should have really ever been in. Brad Benavides has further confirmed what we had already theorised a few weeks ago. He is absolutely making use of his experience to show some good pace, especially in qualifying, but also in the races, but is still considerably lacking on the racecraft front with some super scrappy driving. Not really the mature look you'd expect from one of the oldest on the grid. Still, after Freddie Slater and Nikita Bedrin, yet another good indicator that AIX is actually a quality squad in F3, they just happen to sign shit drivers all the time. And two shoutouts to end this segment on: Roman Belinsky for scoring his maiden victory thanks to the Tramnitz penalty, adding a third podium to his list of achievements in this rather unlikely season where the pole has left his two hyped up teammates well behind in the standings. The Rodin segment of the review should get rather interesting, I reckon. And second, Matthias Zagazator for his best F3 weekend to date. The Peruvian may have largely been a bit forgettable, but at least this weekend he got to shine one last time before presumably exiting the series. Looking forward to see whatever he'll end up doing next. The Formula 2 title battle remains wide open despite yet another Leo Fornaroli win in the sprint. Somehow, Luke Browning is not only back in contention, but actually in P2 overall thanks to a dominant maiden victory in the feature and some rather poor weekends for Richard Verschoor and Jack Crawford. Turns out I was right, MP was always going to let down Verschoor sooner or later, and I think Dumps didn't exactly help Crawford this weekend either. I have to say, it was also an interesting twist to see Alex Dunn taken out instead of him causing the incidents for once. Really the worst time for some bad luck to kick in, but this is where the early points he lost himself will really come back to bite now. Given the current standings, it feels stupid not to back Fornaroli for the title. Not because of the lead he has, with the engines in F2 that can be gone in a heartbeat after all, but because both Fornaroli himself and Invicta are proving to be the most consistent package in the series. I could see the others having the required speed to challenge, particularly Dunn, but unless things start really going wrong for Fornaroli, it'll be one hell of an uphill battle. Now to the elephant in the room. Arvid Lindblad with an incredibly mixed bag of a weekend, from a stellar podium on Saturday to repeatedly causing crashes in the feature, ruining what could have been a key point scoring weekend with regards to the championship as well. And we really couldn't have asked for a better weekend to show both the best and worst of Lindblad in quick succession. He is super fast for his age, absolutely zero doubt about that, and has also shown pretty sick adaptability with how fast he has been jumping up the ranks. Also, and this is quite important to make the contrast to someone like Fornaroli, he has always been a winner. Not just a title contender, but somebody who is nearly guaranteed a few weekends of mental pace per year by the looks of it. At the same time, much like Kimi Antonelli last year, he is showing the downside of putting 18-year-olds on these grids. Developing the racecraft to look like a professional driver does take a lot longer than finding raw speed. Talent will only get you so far in that department in my opinion. The rest has to be hard work and experience, both of which just happens to take a lot of time. I still believe Lindblad will get the call up to F1 next year. Helmut Marko really seems to like him a lot, and understandably so, but if it happens, it'll be an Antonelli situation all over again, where we really have to manage our expectations, no matter how high his potential might be. Joshua Dirksen really remains the eternal question mark of the series ever since his Hail Mary debut last year. Thanks to Kian Shields occupying the second car, we've got zero clue how good AIX actually is as a squad, and by extension it is super difficult to judge Dirksen with any degree of accuracy. Fantastic double podium last weekend, but this lack of a teammate and much historic data means I struggle to get too excited about that. Where do you guys rank AIX and by extension Dirksen? I'd really love to know that down in the comments. And last but not least, a shout out for John Bennett. It may not be much, but I don't want his rather late first point to go entirely unnoticed. It was a strong weekend for Van Amersfoort Racing all around, to be honest. For F1, the far and away biggest story has to be the Norris and Piastri team order drama at McLaren. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought the online reaction to this whole situation was more than bizarre. Like, listen, I understand people want to see as much fighting at the front as possible, but you can't really blame a team for being smarter than that, no? They have established very early on that they are trying to keep it as fair as possible, and this swap order last time out was just that. Norris wouldn't have lost the position with the earlier stop, even if he had suffered the same slow stop. I really don't understand where this narrative of Norris favoritism has come from at all, if I'm honest. Looks to me like a meme that has gone out of control, and now a lot of people are actually buying into it. Either way, I guess the point is, do not get angry at McLaren. They are keeping things as fair as possible, and that might just end up providing us a title fight that goes down to the wire. A win-win situation, if you ask me. FRECA continued to deliver from a championship perspective, bringing the points gap back together thanks to some sort of mechanical issues for Freddie Slater on Saturday, and a dominant win from unlikely contender Matteo Di Paolo at the same time. Add to that a second career victory for Van Amersfoort ace Pedro Claro, and we've got 4 proper title contenders with 3 rounds to go. The fact that we've got like 3 to 4 consistent contender teams, plus miracle workers like Nikita Bedrin, really keeps this series super entertaining this year in my opinion. And I've recently seen that FRECA will be supporting DTM's Hockenheim round this year, which means I'll be there to watch the penultimate round live in a few weeks' time. It's been a long time since I've seen some feeder series racing tracksites, so I am very excited about that. Title battle aside, 4 new faces on the grid was probably the most interesting story this weekend, with Alex Powell, Shichen Roy, Enea Frey and Rino Franco all stepping up from Italian F4, presumably to get their feet wet before a full season assault next year. Now, we know how hard these late season debuts are, and at least G and Frey were racing for the rather underwhelming CL Motorsport, so them doing fuck all this weekend shouldn't affect your opinion of them negatively. Instead, let's praise the man outperforming expectations, as he has done ever since his return to PHM, to be honest. Dutchman Rino Franco actually scored a point on Sunday and had a decent showing on Saturday as well, essentially meaning he matched fellow late joining rookie Ian Eichmans. The Dutchman really continues to impress whenever he isn't driving in Spanish F4, and after seeing this I am quite looking forward to his 2026 campaign. Last but not least, a shout out for Jun Nakamura. The third man at RSGP may have had a rather up and down season so far with a mix of good pace and lots of incidents, but this Sunday he has finally made it onto the podium, so congrats there. Definitely one of those cases where I don't think the standings accurately reflect his ability at all. The Euro Formula Open Championship remains a bit of a surprise, this time with more incidents for Yvonne David dropping the Sri Lankan 30 points off the championship lead. Instead, South Korean Michael Shin remains the biggest competitor to Timek Garchik, while Jose Garfias is now competing for P3 overall, both definitely not expected before the season. Michael Shin really is a bit of a sweet success story of someone late to the sport, dedicated to making the most of it. Kinda wish we'll see him back in F3 for another year. Let me briefly draw your attention to the fact that Romanian-Italian F4 competitor Luca Visoriano has made his debut in the series this weekend. As you might know by now, I do have a soft spot for the guy. His debut might have been far from spectacular, but I hope this is some foreshadowing for his plans in 2026. Mattia Colnaghi has come a lot closer to the Eurocup 3 title last weekend, but there was lots going on away from the title fight as well. Jesse Carrasquedo is a big contender for the surprise of the season, and this was his best weekend to date. I think in all his racing career, a dominant win and another well-deserved podium, even if he might have finished even higher with a little better racecraft. Either way, I have not rated Carrasquedo at all before this year, but he has really made a huge step this season. Maybe the idea of seeing him in F3 next year wouldn't be quite that bad after all. Enzo Tanvanitschkul is also continuing his steady progress over the season, and I reckon this was at least his best weekend in the series. Not just the results, but also the way he got there. Another podium is of course nice, but race 2 was almost more impressive with a charge from the back to P5. A similar story for Jules Caranta, by the way. Love to see the Red Bull Juniors improve, even if Colnaghi is smoking them all this year. Talking about Red Bull Juniors, Spanish F4 competitor Chris Elfigali has taken the step up to Eurocup 3 this weekend, since there was no clash with Spanish F4, and to be honest, I thought he did pretty well considering how rough a late season debut like this is. I would really like to see him in another team next season though, DriveX just ain't really it. Further proof for that is DriveX ace Oscar Wirtz, whose season looks rather poor on paper, despite a new personal best with a P8. I just wanted to draw attention to it because I still believe this will be an incredibly overlooked campaign from Wirtz, even though I think he is doing a good job of trying to put some sort of season together. Pretty bad odds against a combined 13 MP and Campos cars, plus a well-running Palou Motorsports, at least in the hands of James Agozzi. The team is a bit weird, but that is a different story altogether. Let's move on to the Super Formula Lights instead, where pre-season favourite Rikuto Kobayashi finally found his first win of the season in a much more lively Fuji round compared to the snooze fest last weekend. Nevertheless, Yuki Sano and Yuto Nomura remain the overwhelming favourites, with Nomura extending his lead thanks to a costly penalty for Sano after dominating the first race on track. To be fair, Nomura put in a wicked recovery drive from last to P2 on the road to take that win. The Honda Junior thus finds himself with a neat 32 points gap heading into the final round. Barring any mechanical issues, the title should be a formality at this stage, I reckon. And for our only bit of F4 action, in the Central European Zone F4, Gino Trapper made things a bit close for comfort with his worst weekend of the year, allowing Max Caran to keep the dream alive until the very last race of the season. Nevertheless, Trapper leaves the season as a well-deserved champion and pretty clearly the strongest of the full-time Gensa drivers. Caran did of course have an extra year of experience on these rather obscure racetracks, don't you forget. Since this has been the story all season long already, I'd rather take the time to praise 2023 World Karting Champion Kirill Krutskov one last time. I think you can make a very reasonable argument to call him the strongest driver of the year in the series. Not only did he end up in P6 overall with just a few attended weekends, he also found himself repeatedly fighting for podiums and wins as literally the only car on the grid that wasn't able to challenge the Genser hegemony. And I want to shout out Matilda Putz. Her season may have looked very average on paper, but considering she ran for a single car entry, she still did very well overall and ended with potentially her strongest weekend to date. At least she was consistently challenging the frontrunners on merit this time around. Add to that she was comfortably the best of the female competitors in the series, and you can see why I'm looking forward to her F1 Academy campaign next season. And that might already be it for the single-seaters, but we did have the final round of Champions of the Future for our quick weekly karting report. The Champions of the Future season has come to an end at the World Championship precursor in Sweden, and in the OK Juniors it was a Prema day all along. Ferrari Junior Noah Baglin cruised out front to take the title with no real competition, as both William Collegia and Ali Kreischen had a bit of a stinker weekend. Meanwhile, Williams Junior Dean Hugendorn put in the biggest charge of the event from the mid-pack all the way to P2 on the road. Even if a penalty did drop him back down after the race. He was well out of the title, and anyway, this was really just a good sign for the World Championship next week. I've got two different drivers to shout out though. First up, Oskari Wally. I actually had to Ctrl F my notes to even confirm that I had watched him before, as the Finn has been nothing but a back marker so far during his European career. This weekend though, he unlocked the full home track bonus, I'm assuming, because he was a firm front runner, attacked across both Superheat and Final, and ultimately even ended up inheriting a maiden podium from Hugendorn. Watch out for this kid next week. He might just be a bit of a dark horse for a totally random world title. And second, the kid I've been waiting for all season, Daniel Miron Lorente, has finally scored his first top 10 on the road, continuing his steady improvement in the junior chassis after dominating the minis last year. Sure, he did also get penalised down the order for punting poor Valerio Villapiana, but the point still stands. DML looks ready to fight, and I'm confident he'll be a front runner next year. In the OK Seniors, it was literally all about the huge Kart Republic army, since Christian Costoya had a horrible day in the office, dumped at the start and struggling to recover. Surely some sort of mechanical issue going on there. This meant Mercedes junior Kenzo Craigie got to take the title rather comfortably at his incredibly young age, while Tibor Ramicus secured back-to-back second in the championship as well. Danny Callara did steal the show in the final though, charging past the two-star drivers to take his first ever major win on the European stage, and by extension positioning himself as a bit of a dark horse for the World Championship next week as well. Talking about the World Championship, that feels even more open and okay than it does with the juniors. Kart Republic has about 10 potential winners between Craigie, Ramicus, Turney, Callara, Martinezi, Drummond, Anagnostiides and many more. Meanwhile, Christian Costoya really looks like the only realistic non-Kart Republic winner at the moment, but we know it is rarely that straightforward at the World Championships. In any case, I am hoping for a good battle, but if I had to bet, I'll back Ramicus because it feels like he has had a big result coming for a very long time by now. But this is where you are much supposed to get involved. Who are you rooting for next weekend? Please let us know down in the comments together with all your other predictions and opinions so we can get our lovely little discussion going. And otherwise, I thank you all for watching. I hope you tune in next week for the World Championship, and then I'll catch you in next week's episode.